From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Next Gen Report. It is a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. If you've never heard me before, I am Ethan Buchanan. It's a pleasure to be with you. Check me out on X real quick, @Ethan Buchanan. Buchanan. It's real easy to remember. Ethan Buchanan with a little underscore right in front of it. I make it nice and easy for you, so if you're driving right now, just jot that down in the back of your mind when you get home. Check me out. Obviously, don't get on Twitter or X while you're on the road. That's not a good idea. But when you get off the road, check me out there. Normally, I broadcast here Sundays at 7 p.m. So if you haven't heard that show, or maybe you've heard that show and that's why you're here, either way, welcome. I'm happy to be with you. I want to real quick introduce you to my show's sponsor, Deus Volt Lapel Pins. This is a fantastic company. Why? Because it's family-owned. This is a family-owned, family-operated business. It's this guy that makes these pins. Him and his family package them together. They pray over each package before they send them out because this is a faith-based company. So whether or not faith is your thing, I'd encourage you to look into this company because it really is great. They make a fantastic product. You can see the prices if you're watching right now. It's not expensive. These are fairly cheap pins, but they're very high quality, $6 a pop. Use my promo code NEXTPIN2026. You can get 10% off. They've got a bunch of new pins right now, the White Boy Summer pins, the Jerusalem Cross Camo lapel pin. They've got a bunch of different variations of the Jerusalem Cross pins. They've got a whole bunch of different American history, Texas history related pins. I encourage you to check these guys out. It's a fantastic product from a fantastic company. Now, we've got a lot of serious stuff to get into today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Texas Senate race. Before we get into that, Cinco de Mayo was yesterday. I love Cinco de Mayo. I love a good margarita and a good taco, so any excuse to have a margarita and a taco is fine by me. I'm a Houstonian. I love a margarita. I love a taco. Now, I also believe in things like strong borders and deporting illegal aliens. So according to the left, that means I'm not allowed to have a margarita and a taco. I had one anyway because I don't care what this ridiculous woman on Twitter said, or I guess this was on TikTok that she posted it, but I found it on Twitter. Take a listen to this or watch if you're watching with me right now. Listen to what this lady has to say.
Just remember, if you were against the Super Bowl halftime show and you support ICE, you don't get Cinco de Mayo, you don't get tacos, you don't get margaritas, you don't get tequila, you do not get carne asada, nada.
Now, I just want to say for the record, if I just did the same Hispanic accent that this lady did, I would get laughed out of the room as a racist. Right? If you don't get the carne asada, they would say you're mocking Mexicans, you're mocking Hispanic people, this is not your culture, whatever the stuff they throw at white people these days is. I don't know. But she does it and it's fine. All right? That's an injustice to me. I want to be able to do funny Hispanic accents, but I'm not allowed to. But she can because she's on the left. That's how it works. All that being said, I don't care. I don't care what the left thinks about me and my political beliefs. And you shouldn't either. The thing that the left can't seem to wrap their heads around is you can have an appreciation for elements of other cultures, like things like tacos and margaritas. A margarita is a culturally Hispanic drink. Taco is a culturally Hispanic food. That's fine. I'm more than happy having those things here and experiencing those things. I'm more than happy for people to come in legally and share some of those cultural elements with me as a white American. But the key caveat there is legally, all right? And the other key caveat is I want to experience these things. I don't want to sacrifice my culture in favor of those things. Two cultures can live separately, okay? And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to have a lot of cultures. And I think it's a good thing to have distinctions between the cultures. And I think it's a good thing to have cultural exchange. That means that if you're trying to break into my country illegally and replace my culture with yours, we have a problem. But if you want to say, hey, this is what we drink on special occasions in my country, I'll have a swig with you. By all means, God bless you for sharing. But the left doesn't understand that those two things can coexist. I think it's willful ignorance, but maybe they're just actually honest to God stupid. It could be either one. Who knows? Now, let's move on to something more important while we've still got some time in this segment. The Texas Senate race. I am positive this is going to be one of, if not the biggest race of the 2026 cycle. And it's getting down to the wire here on the GOP side. Ken Paxton and John Cornyn are in a primary. They're going at it. They've been going at it for some time. Now, there are some, including myself, that would say, I think this race is already over, and I think Ken Paxton has won it. If you're an incumbent and you get forced into a runoff, that's usually not a good sign. And that's what Ken Paxton did to John Cornyn. He forced him into a runoff. Now, could John Cornyn pull off a runoff victory? Absolutely he could. It is 100% a possibility. Is it going to happen? I wouldn't put my money on it, and here's why. The polling just doesn't show that John Cornyn is in good shape here. Senator John Cornyn is trailing Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton in the GOP primary runoff for U.S. Senate, according to a new poll, with the runoff election right around the corner. A new poll from the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs shows the incumbent is being edged out by Paxton, with 7% of likely voters still undecided. Early voting set to start Monday, May 18th. On Election Day is Tuesday, May 26th. Republican voters have a short time to decide who will be their candidate to go ahead of Democratic candidate James Tallarico in the November 2026 general election. Here's what the polling says. According to the poll, Paxton has 48% lead over Cornyn, 45%. Again, just by virtue of being in the runoff at all and not winning his primary outright, Cornyn is in a bad spot. If he's trailing even now in the runoff, it's even worse. It's even worse. And again, his time to make up that difference is very short. He's going to have to come up with something very big in a very short period of time that resonates very well with Texas Republican voters. And he's had quite a bit of time to do it, and he still hasn't done it. If he was able to do it, I think he would have done it before the first round of primary voting and prevented the runoff. He wasn't able to do that. I don't see why he would be able to do that at all now. We've got more to talk about on this. We'll be right back in just a second. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. I am Ethan Buchanan. This is the Next Gen Report. Check me out on X at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. If you normally listen to Walton and Johnson reruns here on AM 950 KPRC at this time and you're shocked to hear my voice, you have no idea who I am, go check me out there. You can watch past episodes of the show. You'll be able to watch this episode of the show. The cameras are rolling right now. We have a ton of visual elements you're not going to want to miss out on. A lot of great stuff is there on my X page. You can learn a lot about me if you're hearing me for the first time. Check me out there at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. Shoot me a message, leave me a comment, just say, hey, tuned in, great stuff. Or if you hated it, let me know. I love feedback either way. Positive feedback, negative feedback, whatever you got. All right, we're talking about Ken Paxton versus John Cornyn. We're getting really close to this runoff election. I believe, May 26th is the date for that runoff. So keep that in the back of your head. It's very important that you vote in this. Early voting starts on May 18th. That's close. We're getting right up to it. So be aware of that. Now, where do the candidates stand? Obviously, this is the Senate GOP primary. Ken Paxton is ahead of John Cornyn. All right. Again, I'll show you the numbers. According to the poll, this is from the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs. 48% is where Ken Paxton is at. Cornyn is at 45. That's a 3% margin. That's not huge, but Being down by anything as an incumbent in a runoff is a bad sign. And again, here's why. The people that show up and vote for this are going to be the most Republican of the Republicans. It's going to be the folks that their entire, day to day is thinking about politics. All right? Maybe not their entire day to day, but a lot of it. These are folks that are very politically active. They tend to lean to whatever extreme. If it's a Democrat runoff, they're the most Democratic Democrats. If it's a Republican runoff, they're the most Republican Republicans. John Cornyn has made the most Republican Republicans very angry, and he's done it on a lot of different issues. A lot of people, including myself, are very upset with him backing a gun control bill that Joe Biden was pushing back in 2022 after the Uvalde shooting. A lot of people are upset with him over his record on immigration. His record on immigration is not great. He seems to be, at best, if you give him the benefit of the doubt, he seems to be, at best, a squishy Republican on this issue. And that's giving him a lot of the benefit of the doubt. I'll show you an example of this. Tom Slocum posted this video. If you're not following Tom Slocum on X, go do it. At Slocum for Texas. He is a fantastic independent journalist. This is the video that he posted from a Senate Judiciary Committee that John Cornyn was, I believe, chairing. If not chairing, he was attending it. Just take a listen to what he has to say about the DACA program.
Tomorrow marks the 10th anniversary of the memorandum that created the DACA program. I've long advocated for a pathway for our DACA recipients. They came to the United States at an early age through no fault of their own, and they know no country other than the United States. Like Dalio Larios, who we were fortunate to have with us today.
Okay, this is amnesty. This is what he's pushing for. It's amnesty. If you're a DACA recipient, I hate to break it to you, you broke the law. You might not have done it knowingly or willingly. Maybe you were a 4-year-old and were just dragged along by your parents who crossed the border illegally, but you also crossed the border illegally and you're not allowed to do that. All right? It's just not allowed. Plain and simple. That's all there is to it. If we start making exceptions to our immigration law because President Obama feels like we just should, because that's where the DACA program came from. It wasn't legislated. It wasn't created by Congress. Barack Obama just did it. I don't understand where he got that authority. It's unconstitutional, blatantly. It makes no sense that it hasn't been struck down yet. I don't know what the Supreme Court is doing on this. I don't know how it's been around for this long and nothing's been done about it, but it's blatantly unconstitutional and it should be abolished and those people should be deported. Nevertheless, John Cornyn has gone as far as to campaign on this. He's not just giving it a quick pat on the back every now and again in a committee hearing. This is from 2018. He's actually now deleted this campaign video. But of course, Tom Slocum was able to grab it before he did. Take a listen to this. He's campaigning on the DACA program.
El uno al otro, Texas tiene una mano tranquila y firme cuidándonos. El senador John Cornyn. El senador Cornyn ha luchado para detener el tráfico sexual, especialmente a lo largo de la frontera. Él apoya la reforma policial. Y mientras el senador Cornyn está a favor de fronteras seguras, él apoya firmemente la legalización de los Dreamers.
I'm John Cornyn, and I approve this message.
Now, you might ask yourself, and you might ask me, okay, well, what are they actually saying in that ad? And that's a good question, because this ad is in Spanish. Why is a U.S. senator campaigning in Spanish? The official language of the United States is English. You don't have to like it, but I've got an executive order that says it's English. So that's my first red flag. But I actually took the time to go in, pull the transcript, and translate it. All right? This is the translation or the highlights of that ad. And of course, I had Grok translate it. So all you AI folks out there that are saying, oh, we can't use AI. It's Google Translate, okay? It knows what it's doing. Good grief. Key on-screen text and visuals in order of appearance. Close-up of John Cornyn with the text, El Senador John Cornyn, which of course translates to the Senator John Cornyn. Calm, consistent, and effective. Text overlays. Lucha para detener el tráfico sexual. Fights to stop sex trafficking. Okay, that's great. That's fine. Apoya la reforma policial. Supports police reform. I have several questions because every time I've heard police reform, quote unquote, it's coming from leftists and it's we don't want them to have guns or enforce the law. It's George Floyd type stuff. If that's what he's campaigning on, I don't like that. And considering the fact that this ad is obviously targeted to people who don't speak English, I have a hard time believing that he's going to really clearly iron out what police reform is in a way that makes any type of sense. Apoya la legalización de los dreamers. Supports the legalization of the dreamers. So there in that own ad, in Spanish, is he admitting, actually, this wasn't legal. Because if it was, you wouldn't need to legalize them. So what he's saying right there in Spanish in a campaign ad from 5 years ago is John Cornyn supports the legalization of illegal aliens. That's what he's saying. That's amnesty. I've been fairly consistent on this, and I think most Republicans have, with a handful of exceptions. Amnesty is a no-no. It should always be a no-no. We cannot just go willy-nilly making exceptions to laws, especially immigration laws. And yet, that's what John Cornyn was campaigning on. Now, I haven't seen anything from him saying, oh, yes, I understand that I was wrong there. I will never back that again. I admit my mistake. If he had done that, that would be one thing. If he would go out and say, yes, I understand that what I was advocating there for was amnesty. I've since come to realize that amnesty is a disaster waiting to happen, and it can never be allowed in the United States. That would be one thing. I would still say you're smart enough to know better, and you were then. That alone disqualifies you. But at least it would be something. So far as I'm aware, John Cornyn has done nothing but obfuscate from that. He's tried to hide it. Again, that ad I played you, which was on his YouTube until Tom Slocum called him out for it, has been pulled down. It's been buried. Why? If you don't think you did anything wrong, why are you hiding it? That's an important question to ask. And again, this is just me saying this, but it's the feeling of a lot of other grassroots Republicans. We have a memory, okay? And this really wasn't all that long ago. John Cornyn has burned people a number of times on key issues that really mattered to the base. So, unless he can find something that's going to be so much bigger than that he can hit Ken Paxton with, which I really don't think he will, this race is probably already over. I'm not going to encourage you to gamble, but if you were going to gamble on this race, I would put my money on Ken Paxton. All right, that's what I'm saying. All right, we got a lot more to talk about today. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back. Once again, the X page is @_Ethan Buchanan. Buchanan. Check me out there. There's going to be a lot of visual elements in this segment of the show. So I want you to keep listening, but keep that X page in mind so that when we're done here live on air, you can go back and you can watch the video on X. So before we really get going, I want to kind of preface the conversation we're about to have. And I do want it to be a conversation. So listen in, reach out to me on X, give me your feedback, all right? I don't want this to just be me talking into the void. You're less of an audience and more of, I feel, participants in this conversation. So, or at least that's what I want. So, listen, feel free to weigh in on X. That's where you can join the conversation. @_Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. Now, left-wing violence has been a problem for a very long time in this country. It's a consistent problem. It keeps being a problem. We keep seeing cases of it. All right. Now, on the right, I think the attitude towards violence, by and large, is this. Violence is oftentimes necessary. All right. And what I mean by that is things like self-defense cases. All right. Let's say someone attacks you. That's an act of violence against you. You defend yourself with, let's say, a firearm. I carry a firearm a lot of the time, most of the time. If I'm out, I probably have a gun on me. I have a license to carry. It's my right as an American, as a person created in the image of God. I have a God-given right to bear arms and defend myself, all right? So I have a gun. I have a license to carry that gun, and I have even self-defense insurance, all right? Because I understand the realities of the legal system we're in. You can do everything right. You're still going to probably get hauled into court, at least for a little bit. So have that insurance. It's good to have a lawyer on your side. Now, I believe that if someone attacks me or my family, I am justified and will use violence to defend myself, to defend my wife, for example. Now, does that mean I'm going to go looking for violence? No. Does that mean I believe violence is in and of itself a good thing? No. The left does not see violence that way. At least so far as I can tell. So far as I can tell, to the left, violence is just one of any number of legitimate means to an end. Because that's what it's all about for them, the end. If your goal is utopia, then you can steamroll whoever you want to get there. We've seen this time and time again, but I want to point to a few specific examples of this. We all remember Luigi Mangione, all right? He's the guy who allegedly assassinated the CEO of United Healthcare, I think was the company, all right? Now, he's still awaiting trial for that. He has the presumption of innocence, all right? We don't know for sure whether or not he did it. He's just the one that was allegedly caught on camera doing it. And he's the one that's been arrested and is going to face trial for it. Now, those trials are set for later in the fall. He's got two. He's got a state trial in New York and a federal trial. One of those is in September. The other, I think, is in like October or November, something like that. But anyway, now, if you're a reasonable person, you have one of two thoughts about Luigi Mangione. A, he's a criminal. He needs to go through the court process and then face the punishment for his crimes. Or two, they got the wrong guy. He needs to be set free and we need to go find the real killer. All right. Those are the only two reasonable positions. Maybe you could take a third position and say, I don't know. Let's see what happens in the trial. So maybe there's three. The position the left is taking is the fourth unreasonable position. Those first three were reasonable. This one is not. The healthcare companies are evil. So by extension, the healthcare company CEOs are evil. And in service of eliminating evil from the earth, Luigi Mangione was justified in allegedly killing that guy. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people that feel that way. And I'll give you some examples of this. This is a Twitter post. It's a picture of a poster that's up in some city. I don't know where it is. Free Luigi. Deny, defend, depose, eat the CEOs. And it's a picture of his face smiling. And this is an Antifa Ultras is the page that posted this. This is very common sentiment amongst the kind of Antifa wing of the left. They feel this way all the time. Here's another page that I found that I thought was interesting. This is just an entire Luigi Mangione fan page on Twitter. It's just all posts gushing about how great Luigi Mangione is and supporting him and backing him. And, oh my God, we love you, Luigi. Free Luigi. He's so handsome. Free Luigi. That's like every post on here. Of course, there are some trial updates and whatnot on here every now and again. That's interesting, I guess. But this is the whole Twitter page. This mindset is common among the left. And listen, I have no great love for healthcare companies. I think the healthcare industry is definitely very kind of conniving and sneaky, and some might say corrupt. I think that's probably fair. We can have that discussion. I don't like the healthcare industry. I don't. But as much as I think the healthcare industry needs to be reformed, I understand that violence is not justified in this situation. The left doesn't understand that. They have the same feelings about Trump. They don't like Trump. They don't like Trump's policies, and they think violence against him is justified. Here's a video to make that case. This is at one of these, billion different left-wing protests that they have every 5 minutes. This is just some old lady, ironically enough, wearing a shirt that says something along the lines of kindness, just whacking the crap out of an effigy of President Trump. And, I guess that's free speech. I guess you're fine to do that. But yeah, there's just a bunch of woke women beating the crap out of an effigy of President Trump because they believe that Trump is evil, so they're justified in violence. Here's the problem with that. That ideology, that mindset does not just stop at one person. And we've seen this recently. We remember the Palisades fires in Los Angeles. I mean, like half of Los Angeles was burnt to the ground. It's one of the biggest issues in their mayoral election that's going on right now. It's a huge deal. Now, you may not have heard this because it hasn't really been covered, but that Palisades fire was actually started by an arson. Originally, the narrative was it's global warming, and then we found out, actually, no, here's the video of the guy starting it. It was an arson attack, and it became this massive wildfire. Here's why the arsonist did it, allegedly. From the New York Post, alleged Palisades arsonist became fixated with Luigi Mangione. Said blaze started out of resentment of the rich. And that's according to prosecutors. The deranged firebug accused of igniting the devastating Palisades fire had become fixated on Luigi Mangione in the lead up to the deadly blaze, and then allegedly suggested the inferno was started out of resentment for the rich. This is the exact same mindset that we see from leftists all the time. Eat the rich are evil, socialism, whatever. Remember that dress that AOC wore to the Met Gala or whatever years ago? That eat the rich dress? This is that mindset right there. These people have more money than me. These people are pushing policies I don't like, so we need to, destroy them or destroy their things. People died in that fire. And if you believe the prosecutors, people died in that fire almost specifically because of how much love people like Luigi Mangione were getting from the left for committing an act of violence. We have to do something about this. I don't know what the solution is. I have no idea. But I can look at this and say, okay, there's no possible way to share a country with people like this. So what is the solution? I don't know. We have to find some way to get it through these people's heads that, hey, listen, I understand you don't like X policy or X politician, but it's still not okay for you to just go killing people. That cannot be the solution. You cannot just destroy things. You cannot just set entire cities on fire and shoot CEOs you don't like and repeatedly attempt to assassinate the president or other conservative figures. I may have played this clip on the show before, but this is Scott Jennings on CNN calling this out specifically, saying, listen, look, the average right-winger has good reason to be afraid right now because we keep getting literally attacked. Not just in the comments, not just people bullying us, literally physically attacked. Take a listen to this.
The left is not the only people doing this, and the right does just as much online.
You can understand why we're on edge as conservatives, though. 3 times the president, Steve Scalise, Brett Kavanaugh, Charlie Kirk. Heck, there was even a plot against Russ Vought the other day, who's the head of the Office of Management and Budget. I mean, conservatives are, I think, rightfully on edge because this keeps happening over and over and over again, and people keep calling Donald Trump a Nazi, and they keep calling him a fascist, and they keep repeating lies about him that are not true, yet they keep getting repeated regarding Epstein and other things. I'm just telling you, as a conservative who lives in this every day, my friend was murdered last year. My president's had 3 assassination attempts. I have a knot in my stomach about it every day that I wake up.
Same here. And every conservative should. Because the left has made it very clear time and time again that if you're to the right of them and something happens to you, at best they won't care. At worst, they will openly celebrate it and praise whoever the person is that did whatever thing that happened is. We've got to figure this out. We cannot share a country like this. All right, let's close things out on a lighter note. Once again, if you've enjoyed the show, if you tuned in by chance, you've heard me here this afternoon for the first time ever, check me out on X at _Ethan Buchanan. A lot of visual elements in this show. We're recording all of that right now. It'll be available to go watch back the live broadcast. You can see those visual elements for yourself there on X. Again, at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. Now, the Met Gala. Probably nobody listening to me right now cares at all about the Met Gala. Good. I don't either. And I really wouldn't be talking about it if I hadn't seen an actual honest-to-God Babylon Bee headline pop out at me from the Met Gala. And we're going to talk about it now because I've done some research into this, and I think there's actually some broader cultural themes that actually are important that we can pull from this. The Met Gala by no means is important at all. But I do think it's interesting to kind of get these flashpoints where we can kind of zoom in on the culture a little bit, and that's kind of what I want to do here. So, without further ado, here it is. I'm just minding my own business on Sunday evening after coming back from a road trip. I was at a reenactment in Jefferson, Texas. Beautiful historical event in a beautiful historical town. And I'm minding my own business in my home, safe, I thought, before I was assaulted visually in a sort of metaphorical sense by this post on Twitter. Erin Rose Phillip arriving at the Met Gala. The first black transgender woman with quadriplegic cerebral palsy signed to a major agency, breaking barriers with every step. This is what real representation looks like. And it's just this disabled transgender person in a wheelchair twitching at the camera. And boy, let me tell you, a lot of tongue holding is going on right now. And I'll just leave that there. But oh my God, I had to spend like 10 minutes researching this to figure out if it was real or not. Because I had to know. And again, I'm being 100% honest. If you had just read me that headline and asked me to guess, I would have told you that's a Babylon Bee headline for sure. For sure. But it's not. It's real. This is a real person. This is a real transgender, quadriplegic, cerebral palsy model, I guess. Some of them's work is still out there and available now. And I found it. Good God. It's just this creepy looking dude. And again, he is a creepy looking dude. I know that'll offend some people out there. You can't say that about a disabled trans person who's black. I don't care. This is creepy looking. You flopped this poor quadriplegic on a table like a dead fish. And you're just taking pictures of him while he's dressed like a woman. That's creepy. I know you're not supposed to say that. We're supposed to be all woke and polite. But I'm sorry, that's creepy. This is a creepy picture. This is somebody who should be receiving medical treatment probably, or at least being taken care of, not flopped on the table like a fish. And on top of that, this poor dude has managed to delude himself into thinking he's a woman, which is a tragedy in and of itself. Now, let me be clear. I'm not making fun of this person for being a quadriplegic or for having cerebral palsy. I've known a handful of people that have cerebral palsy. It's very tough. He has my sympathy for that. I wish him the best in his journey dealing with cerebral palsy. But good God, why do we have to turn this guy into a big celebrity? Well, the answer is because he checks a lot of boxes. A lot of intersectional boxes. He's black. He's transgender. He's disabled. Let's make him a celebrity so we can show how inclusive we are. That's the ideology here. And I know this is the ideology here because even he himself, Erin or Ariana Rose, depending on who you ask, Phillips, gave a TED Talk. And he says, I need to be in the modeling agency to combat whiteness. I have to challenge the white norms in the modeling agency. That's honest to God what he says here. Take a listen to this. This is his TED Talk. A TED Talk? You got to be kidding me.
When I first started working, I was an anomaly to the industry. Arguably, in many ways today, really I still am. I think it's time to say the quiet part out loud. The fashion industry is unlikely to book or pay black trans feminine and or physically disabled models to do runway, editorial, and or campaign because of an absence of whiteness.
I don't really understand for sure what exactly that word at the end there was, but it was followed up by whiteness, either because of an accent or whiteness or something like that. But basically, the gist is because of whiteness, the modeling industry isn't hiring black, transgender, disabled models. Now, on the one hand, that's just not true. And again, in order to debunk this, I did research on the topic. This model has an extensive portfolio going back at least to 2024. 2024 is as far as this particular documentary website goes. But since 2024, they, them has been working. And I'm saying they, them sarcastically, not in recognition of whatever gender identity. So, one, it's just not true. And even if it was true that black, transgender, disabled models weren't getting paid or getting work at all, I think it would just come down to the fact that to a certain extent, you can't really do that job. And that should be fine. Some jobs are not for everybody. What is the purpose of a model? Presumably, it's to wear clothes, make those clothes look good so that people buy the clothes. I'm going to be honest. If I'm looking at that picture of this quadriplegic flopped on the table like a fish, wearing Levi's overalls or whatever it was he was wearing, my first thought is not, oh, I'm going to look great in that, let me go buy it. Which is the purpose of a model. That's the job of the model. Your job is to look so good in a pair of clothes or set of clothes or what have you that somebody else thinks I would also look that good in those clothes. I'm going to go buy them. That's your job. This person can't do that job. Now, they're being paid to do that job, I think, largely so that different companies can meet maybe a diversity quota or what have you. Maybe just get attention, social media clicks. That's part of it, I'm sure. But the root issue here is we have gotten to a point in a society where we believe that every single thing should represent every single person equally. And that's just not the case. You and your special laundry list of whatever describes you does not need to be an example of every single medium possible in society. We do not need a special model or a special category of model for every single laundry list of special people. We just don't. Same thing is true for any number of things. Films, Congress, what have you. There's this idea now that every single film has to completely, perfectly represent the population of, whatever demographic. The United States of America, let's say. We see that all the time. We need X amount of black and brown people in films because there's X amount of black and brown people in the United States. We need X amount of black and brown people in Congress or X amount of gay people in Congress or X amount of disabled people in Congress because of whatever. How about just across the board we do this? We just say, if you're able to do X job well, you get X job. If you're a congressperson and your job is represent people and you're able to represent people well, you'll get that job. They'll vote for you. They will. If you're an actor and your job is to play a role and you're good at that, you're what they need to play a particular role, you should get that job. We shouldn't have to make sure we're casting black people for roles that black people don't need to be playing because it's a white character, traditionally white character, historically white character, or what have you. We've got to get out of this. It is not our job as a society to make sure every single intersectional box is checked 100% of the time. And it's ridiculous. It really is. All right, listen, this has been the Next Gen Report. We'll be back Sunday, 7 p.m. right here on AM 950 KPRC. You can find me anytime on X at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. Thank you very much for listening.